Alright, hi guys. We're going to do a quick video here on something called comparing expressions. And in our class, one of the ways we've been learning how to do this is we're using algebra tiles. We're trying to be really visual with how we do it. So we're drawing out pictures and we use something called a comparison map where we have a left side and a right side. And if you need to, feel free to pause the video so you can kind of draw this out. But I'm going to label this the left and the right. And the idea here is we want to compare the left and right and decide which is greater, the left side or the right side. And to do that, first we need to know what are we comparing. So we're going to make up an expression here. Let's imagine on the left side, our expression is 1 minus 2 minus parentheses 2 minus 2. And let's imagine on the right side, our expression is 4 minus parentheses 2. Well, first off, one of the things we've been learning how to do in class is before we even simplify or do anything, we want to be able to draw this expression. So if I have a 1 minus 2, that means I have 1 unit, and a minus 2 is 2 negative units, like that. And then if I have a minus parentheses, I'm going to build down in the negative box, the minus box, and I'm going to build 2 minus 2, so that's a positive 2 and a negative 2. And it'll look just like that as a visual. On the right side, I have 4 minus parentheses 2. So 4 means I have 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have a minus parenthesis, which is going to go down in the minus box. And it has a 2 in it, so I'm going to do 2. 1, 2. And then I'm ready to start simplifying and deciding which is greater, the left or the right. So there's my visual, there's my picture. That's kind of my beginning steps here. I'm going to move this up. Now I have to go through my legal moves. There are 3 legal moves that I am allowed to do on a map. I can flip, I can zero, and I can balance. Those are the 3 things I'm allowed to do. And I can technically do them in any order that I choose. Flip, zero, balance, however you want to do it. Personally, I like to try and flip everything up to the top of the mat. I find it easier to compare when everything's piled up on the top side. So what I would do is I would take these 2 units and move them up. And the one thing that's going to happen is they're going to change colors. But that'll at least move them up to the top. And I would actually like to take all of these and move them up top as well. The 2 solid ones will now be 2 empty negatives, and the 2 negatives will turn into 2 solid ones. And by doing that, I no longer have these in the bottom of the mat, and I no longer have these, so I'll just kind of cross them out. So that's kind of my flip move. I'm going to check that off. Everything's flipped. Let's go on to zeroing. Let's look for some zero pairs. A zero pair is when you have a positive and a negative. I can even draw like a solid and an empty. When they are together, they make 0. So I see lots of 0 pairs. On the right side, I see these could be a 0 pair and these could be a 0 pair, and I could take them off my mat. On the left side, I see lots of sets. I could take this off the mat. I could take this off the mat. I could even take these off the mat. So there's actually a lot of 0 pairs, and it's starting to look a little messy, but check, I zeroed it. So now I'm going to draw a picture down below here of what the mats look like now that I've actually flipped and zeroed everything. So now I'm going to draw a real quick version of what's left on the left side and what's left on the right side. On the left, if you notice, we have moved all these 0 pairs off. The only thing I see is this negative empty one. I think that's the only thing I see on the left side. And on the right, if I moved all these 0 pairs off, all I see is these 2 solid unit tiles. And I know that this represents -1 and this represents +2. And I have one final move. I have the balance move. Balance is when you have something matching on the left and the right and you want to take them off the mat. These aren't matching. One of them's negative, these are positive. There's actually nothing for me to balance in this example. But I can say I know what my answer is. Which is greater, -1 or +2? Well, definitely +2 is greater. So I'm going to use my greater than symbol, my less than greater than symbol, to say that, look, the right side is the greater side. right is greater. And I'm done. So let's try one more example for this video, and I would encourage you to pause it and maybe try it yourself first and see if you have the hang of it. And I'm just going to call this example 2, and it's the exact same question. It's which is greater. So we have this mat all set up, and we're going to use a different expression this time. This time on the left side, we're going to do 2x minus 3 minus parenthesis negative 1. And on the right side, we're going to do x plus 2 minus parenthesis 1 minus x. So here's what you should do. Pause the video and see if you can draw it out correctly first. And then unpause the video and see if your drawing matches my drawing. Okay, so I'm going to start working on this. 2x minus 3. That means I have 2x tiles. Looks like this. And because they're positive, I'm going to have to shade those in and make them dark. So here's my 2x tiles. Minus 3 means I have 3 negatives. 1, 2, 3. And then minus parenthesis means go down to the bottom and build a negative 1 down here like that. And then on the right side, I have x plus 2. So I have an x plus 2. X and plus 2 are both positive. So what I'm going to do is shade those in nice and dark. And then down in the minus box, I'm going to build a 1 minus x. That's a 1. And a minus x would be an empty negative x like this. And that's how I'm going to build it. So now I go on to my next step, solving this problem, figuring out which is greater, the left or the right. So remember my moves. I can flip, I can zero, and I can balance. Those are the 3 things I can do. Okay, so I like to start with flip first. It's not a requirement though. There's lots of ways you can do these. But if I flip, I like to move everything up to the top. So I'm going to flip this unit up, make it a dark shaded unit. And I'm going to flip this unit up, it'll turn into an empty. And I'll flip the x up, and it will be dark. And with that being all done, I'm going to check off flip, and I'm going to cross these out so I remember they're not down there anymore, just so I don't start getting confused. All right, flip, done. Let's do my 0 move. So what do I have for 0 pairs? Well, on the left side, I definitely see a 0 pair here of these units that I can get off the mat. On the right side, I definitely see these 0 pairs that I can get off the mat. I think that's all I see though, so 0, check. Let's move on to balance. Balance is when you take something matching on the left and right and take them off at the same time to balance it out. And I definitely see some things I can balance. I see 2 x's over here and 2 x's over here. So why don't we take the x's off at the same time? Let's take these x's, I'll circle them off, and let's take this x and this x off to balance them out, to match them out. And then if you think about it, the mat's looking a little messy now. So if you think about it, I'm going to draw what's left over so I can see this easier, kind of a smaller version of what's left on these mats. And all I see on the top of the left side, now that everything's removed, is 2 negatives. That's all I see left over there. And on the right side, the only thing I see remaining is 1 positive unit. So check, we balanced, we did everything there. So once you get it all the way down to here, I see my answer is a negative 2 and a positive 1, which is greater, negative 2, positive 1. Well, definitely the positive 1 is the greater side. So there's my answer. Again, the right is greater. So there you have it, how to compare an expression. We're really working on how to do it visually. So we want to draw it and then go through that flip 0 balance process. And pretty soon what we're going to be doing in class is learning how to organize our steps in more of an algebraic way. And pretty soon after that, we'll be getting rid of the visual altogether and just be doing the flip 0 balance without seeing the tiles. So it's a process. We're working into it. Hopefully this helps a little bit. All right, thanks. All right, I'm all done.